Hello, viewers. Welcome to JIBRIN Angle on Oweleke TV. As always, we shall be having a broad discussion with Barrister A.A. Manta, who has been our regular guest here on the show. We shall be discussing the 2024 budget. We shall be talking about the COP28. We shall also be talking about Kaduna bombing. These are the three topics we'll be delving into, expanding on today with our erudite lawyer, Barrister Austin Manta, who is a legal practitioner for the past almost 4 decades now. So he's a very, very senior lawyer. He is not only good at legal analysis, he's also good at virtually everything. That sometimes I seem to agree with lawyers why they could refer to themselves as learned. But in Manta's case, he seemed to be of far above learnedness because he literally knows everything and whatever any topic. So far that I have brought, even on our private discussion, he seemed to have knowledge of all the topics. So I respect him for that. Once again, Barrister Manta, we thank you for honoring our invitation once again to be on this show this week.
Thank you very much.
Yes. Can you please, before we go into the details, what is your impression of the 2024 budget that the president submitted? I don't like referring to him as the president, but for the purpose of formality, I'll just do that for this interview or for this discussion. He submitted 2024 budget last week. So what is your impression? What's your view, general view on that budget? We'll definitely go into some details.
Thank you very much, Jibrin and viewers. As I always want to do, I want to approach the topic from a brief background of the situation in Nigeria. You agree with me that the economy is in shambles. The naira has lost its value. Food is more expensive. Unemployment and insecurity are rife. All this have led to higher cost of living. Feeding, education, health, accommodation, transportation are all gone through the roof. Yet, the Tinubu government is still borrowing and spending recklessly. So much money on unnecessary travels, renovation of buildings, buying of vehicles, and cost of governance. It is in the light of this that we should analyze the budget for 2024. There is absolutely no prudence in expenditure, but rather utmost extravagance, even using borrowed funds. Obviously, these people do not care about the common man or the common people of Nigeria. Having said that, I have absolutely no confidence in the budget that has been presented. And as we go along and break it down into details, you will understand why this budget will not carry us anywhere and will not even prick at the problems that the country is facing today.
All right, thank you so very much. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you.
Okay, thank you so very much, Barrister Manta. Yes, as you said, as you pointed earlier, we shall be going into that, and I think this is the right time for us to do that. Now, there are so many issues here with this budget, just like you noted. This is a crazy budget to me, very, very crazy. It just doesn't make sense to me. We have about 15 billion naira budgeted for just travels, international travel for the president. We have the building, I think Wike submitted 15 billion naira, is it renovation or building a new store, a new house for the vice president. We have so many. I have the breakdown here, long list of ridiculous figures on ridiculous things. We have the issue of animal, for God's sake, 201 million for animals. I don't get it. I don't really get it, for God's sake. Can you help me make sense? Help me make sense of this 15. First, let's even start with that. This 15 billion travel expenses. I think just for the president or so. I think that's what the record I have here for international. I think yes, Tinubu and international travels. I think that's what I have here.
Before I go to that, it is good to give an overview of the budget. But even before that, I can recall that on this program in the past, I told you that one of the biggest problems of leadership in Nigeria is people coming into leadership without planning, without having an economic plan that is widely assessed, critiqued, and improved upon, so that by the time they get into power, they will start working according to the economic plan that they have done. Tinubu was touted by his supporters and those who were promoting his presidency as somebody who has been ready to be president. They talked about what he did in Lagos. Now you look at from when he left Lagos, it's 20-something years. And I've made mention that I expect for somebody to receive my support, I expect somebody who has been governor of the largest state in Nigeria, Lagos State, and who has been out of power for 20-something years, preparing himself to be president one day. I expected a very detailed economic plan that he will start implementing as soon as he gets that power. But what do you see? Nothing like that. You could see nothing like that. And the budget today is a consequence of lack of a prior economic plan. So they just look for power for the sake of power. And when they come into power, they begin to react to situations as they develop. In that reaction, they mistake here, they mistake there, and we continue to go from one hurdle to the next. That is the direct consequence of somebody not preparing himself properly, articulating an economic agenda well before coming to power. And we continue to miss this issue. If we do not do that, we will continue to have the kind of problem we are having in Nigeria with this kind of itinerary budgets that we have. Having said that, the total budget is about 27.7 trillion naira, which in dollar terms is just about $36 billion. Now, by way of comparison, the money that the United States has dashed or given to Ukraine just to aid Ukraine in its war with Russia so far is 3 times this amount. If you look at it, it's about 3 times the whole budget. And the present budget or provision before Congress for further aid to Ukraine alone is about $62 billion. Now we are talking of $36 billion for the entire Nigeria in 1 year. You can see by way of comparison that we have not even started. Now, out of these meager resources, and considering the conditions in Nigeria today, the crushing poverty, the suffering of the people, you would expect the government to be very prudent in managing this meager amount that they have projected. Now, look at the, in economic terms, I'm not an economist, but I have a good
basic knowledge. Yes.
I have a good understanding. And I've always told people that the economy of a country is not different from the economy of your household. Yourself as the head of the family, your wife and children. Now, you do not borrow money in your household to eat food. You borrow money to invest so that you can get something and pay back the money. So if you have your own family, you, your wife, your children, your mother, your dependents, in managing your finances, you don't just borrow for consumption, you borrow to invest. But in Nigeria, what do we do? President Obasanjo helped us back then to exit the debt burden. Now, the debt burden was brought back by Buhari and is being improved upon. Homologous amounts are being borrowed by Tinubu's government. And you can see the effect in the budget that was presented. 30% of the budget is dedicated to debt servicing, not debt payment, the servicing of the interest on the debts we have, a whole 30%. No other sector of the real economy comes close to that. That 30% aggregates to about 8.2 trillion naira going to servicing of our debts. Now, when you are budgeting, even in your household, when you want to apply your income, you apply it to areas of the greatest need.
Yeah.
Now, the same thing is supposed to happen to Nigeria. What are the areas of our greatest need? One, you have security problems. And in terms of a modern economy, education has a priority. Because without education, we are not going to compete anywhere with any country in the world. All the big countries today, young people are making billions from technical abilities. We have to invest more in education if we want our country to grow and become competitive. So you look at the security situation, you look at education, and for the basis of the economy to grow, you look at power. Power in Nigeria today is one of the greatest impediments to development. Whether you run a barbering salon or a big industry, you ultimately depends on power. To me, after defense and education, the next priority should be to sort out the power problem so that the economy can pick up. But you see in the allocation of funds, You see, I don't know what their thinking is, but you remove the 30% debt servicing, you have 7.9% of the budget, which aggregates to 2.1 trillion only for education. And when you look at that 2.1 trillion that is allocated to education, you have to recall that Nigeria, the federal government has 43 universities, federal universities. It has about 37 polytechnics to take care of. It has about 27 colleges of education. It has about 30-something federal government colleges at secondary levels. When you put all these things together, you see that this 2.1 trillion is a drop in the ocean. It's not going to impact the education sector in any way. In any way, let me repeat, it is not going to impact the education sector in any way. So we come back to education being a priority, but not getting what is required to even kickstart it, jumpstart it. You see what the ASU strikes in the federal universities elsewhere has been, how it has been impacting negatively on the education sector in Nigeria. I can only say that these things will only be exacerbated. Now, coming to 15 billion naira. This 15 billion naira was allocated as travels for aides, not the president himself, aides of the president.
Wow, really?
Yes, aides of the president. So when you just look at it, it's laughable. Now, if the aides of the president will travel at 15 billion, is projected for them, how much will the president use? How much will the vice president use for travels? So if you marry these two together, it is not 15 billion. It's coming to about 30-something to 40 billion for travels alone.
My God.
So you should just look at these things that I really don't have adequate words to capture the kind of lack of empathy that our leaders have for the teeming masses that are suffering in Nigeria. You look at that and you say, wow, how can this be? In the first place, the government of Tinubu has one of the largest appointees in Nigeria's history. They're just appointing, and it has not stopped. We continue to hear appointments of senior special aid, special assistant, this and that. In the information sector alone, I think they have over 30-something assistants of under every category you can think of. Why do we need all these aids? We don't need. The economy is struggling. The people are struggling. Why do we have to have all these aids? And then you now have to provide those homologous amounts for them in the budget. What actual value are they adding to the economy? So it's a pity that we are having this problem, but I can understand from a political standpoint the necessity, according to them, to give jobs to the boys, to settle people across the board.
Did you say according to them, they made this public?
No. In their thinking, okay. You want to settle the boys, you want to compromise people, you want to reach across and give people jobs. You understand? That is what I'm talking about in their thinking. But you now come back to the economy. When you want to do that, when you feel that there's a need for that, you still come back to see whether the economy can take or tolerate that kind of extravagance. So I always insist that until we begin to manage our economy properly, and direct our budget and our policies towards the greater good of the greater number of Nigerians, we have not begun the journey.
Thank you very much, Barrister Manta. Honestly, I'm just going through the list of the breakdown. This is just a bit the breakdown that was forwarded to me is the breakdown that has to do with ridiculous priorities. A sort of these are unbelievable these are unbelievable stuff. We have please, this issue of animal, for God's sake, 200 and okay, let me read them out. Foreign trips, okay, local travels, okay, local travels, 618 million. Villa Headquarters International, which one is this again? Villa Headquarters International and local travels. You see, we have duplication of budget of items here. I don't know what is going on here. So many duplicates. Then we have we have refreshment. My God, a meal and foodstuff for the offices of Tinubu and Shetima, almost $1 billion, for God's sake, for 616.5 million. President's office. What is this president's office for? 280-something million. Vice President's office, 372 million. I don't get it, for God's sake. Refreshments and meals for the president. What? 33.6 million. Food stuff. I don't understand. We have refreshment and meals for the president, 33.6 million. And we now have another food stuff, catering material supplies, 250. I don't understand. You see, there are so many duplication of items here. I don't know. The budget is all full of duplicates because you have refreshment and meals for the president at 33-point-something million, and still have another under different stuff again, which is the same food stuff, something that has to do with the same food stuff again. I don't know what these people did here. Food stuffs and catering, but 250-something million. Then we have vice president refreshment meals, 35 million. Foodstuff, catering materials. Can you imagine? Vice president refreshment meals, 35. The same duplication again. Foodstuff, catering materials, supplies. The same duplication, 337.5 million. Feeding of the animals at the Aso Rock Zoo. For God's sake, 201. What are the animals doing there? What are the benefits, or what is the benefit of those animals, for God's sake? That is ridiculous. 200 and something million, for God's sake, just for animals. For what? What are the animals giving to us? Renovation of the president and vice president's quarters, 800 million. This renovation of a thing. Why will renovation be coming up every year? I saw some things in the budget. Why will they be purchasing computers for offices, ministries and parastatals, government agencies every year? Why will there be renovation of official headquarters, official offices or residence of government employees, beginning with the president to vice president, trickle down to the lowest in the lowest cadre? Why will these are things that appears on the budget every year? Why are we supposed to be having? I don't get it. Do we change the computers in our offices? In our offices every year? Computers last for a very long time, for God's sake. Computers are supposed to be replaced. There are some office equipment, home appliances, home equipment. All these things are supposed to last for several years. Some of these items can last for up to, some of them even more than 10 years. All you need is just servicing this stuff, electronics, computer equipment, home appliances, office appliances, all those things as well. But when you every year we seem to see all these things seem to appear in our budget. What crazy stuff is this? Is unbelievable. Now regarding this issue of Bola Tinubu's preparedness, I have told you before that Bola Tinubu coming in as president, that he's been preparing for several years. Honestly, it has never been on the basis of patriotism. It has never been on the basis of service. It has never been on the basis of humanity. It has never been selfless. It has always been a selfish. What he just wants for, there are two things he wanted to, it has always, and what he's doing right now is an evidence to what my own opinion on his reason, excuse me, for coming up, for fighting tooth and nail all these years to become the president. One, he just wants to achieve that power. He has all the wealth. So what he needs next is he just wants that power to be president. Then secondly, loot even more. I don't know why these people are so rich. They want to keep looting the treasury, Nigerian treasury. That is just there for these two reasons. Personal, for both reasons are for personal aggrandizement. That is just it, a sort of, because with this is his first budget. What other proof do we need to validate my opinion of his reason to be the president? What other proof? No proof. The entire budget is about just like you said earlier, just sharing. Let us just bring in the entire family of looters, treasury looters, corrupt people, and we share the loot. That's exactly what they are doing right now. The budget says it all, nothing more. It's sort of, so it is obvious that I said it earlier. This is one of the reasons why I detest this presidency with passion, seriously, because there is no sincerity of purpose. There is no genuinity in them. There is everything about them is just selfish and self-seeking. And that is just the truth. A sort of, this is just, I don't get it. I looked at this budget, I didn't even go into detail, but some basic stuff there. I said, what is this? This is obviously, these guys are obviously out to just loot. Look at other borrowing, for God. You made mention of borrowing. Why on earth, at this juncture, should Nigeria borrow again and keep borrowing? Tell me, these people they are just killing this country, and they will kill it even though, in fact, they will eventually kill it. That is just it. Honestly, I don't get this whole thing. What is the honorarium and sitting allowance for the president? Honorarium and sitting allowance for the vice president, 150 something and 67 million respectively. Powering of generators in the this is another one again. Powering of generators in the state house. I don't understand. What do you powering of generator sorry.
Let me come in at this stage.
Okay.
Because you want to you want to go item by item.
Yeah.
Now you have to understand the budget process in Nigeria. It is riddled with corruption in the extreme. The problem is there are various ministries, parastatals, and departments. When the budget is being prepared, everybody is asked to bring your estimates. There is capital expenditure and recurrent expenditure. It is in the capital expenditure that you find a lot of corruption, because the recurrent expenditure deals primarily with salaries and allowances, which are fixed. And if you have what is called zero budget, it means the provision for you is only for you to pay your salary, the salary and allowances of your staff, and no more.
No, hold on, Barrister. Sorry to cut you short. Now, recurrent, just like you noted, yes, has to do with salary, but recurrent is not. Most of these things I pointed out here, most of these things on my list here, has to do with recurrent.
Yes, I'm coming to that. Wait, I'm coming. I have an explanation for that.
Okay, go ahead.
For ministries and parastatals, and virtually everybody, the budget are categorized into recurrent and capital. Now, if you are in the cooking department, your capital budget is the provision of tools, the provision, even the buying of foodstuff will be capital budget for you. If you are, let me give you an example of a parastatal that I know. They were to present their estimates, and they look around and they saw that they don't have anything that they can project as capital budget. So they say, okay, we don't have enough office space. So let's vote and budget for a new office building. And we will now put memos that we are suffering from office space. Our staff are sitting, are not getting place to sit, this and that. But the rationale is that you must have a capital budget from which you will be able to chop money, from which you'll be able to award contracts and get money. If you don't submit that capital budget, you end up with what they call zero budgeting, which is the recurrent expenditure. There's nothing much to benefit in the recurrent expenditure. That's the truth, because it mirrors, one, the salaries and allowances of staff, and basically the basic requirement for running the office. The real place where the corruption and monies are stolen is from the capital budget. If you are going to buy vehicles, and coming to vehicles, we are buying about tens of thousands of Toyota vehicles, Hilux and other Toyota vehicles for our federal government, parastatals, and across state governments. Virtually every year, we buy these vehicles, and we do not have even an assembly plant in Nigeria, but we are the highest purchasers of Toyota vehicles in the whole of Africa, and possibly the Middle East. And only about 5 people are dealers in this product. All they do is they liaise with Toyota in Japan and their plants in US to supply them, and they supply to the government, and they smile home with billions. They are just middlemen, offering very little value to the economy. I heard that Toyota wants to establish an assembly plant in South Africa. Wow. But our government, they don't care. We are the highest purchasers of this product. How can you go to another country to site an assembly plant that will give their people massive employment? But our people don't care, because about 5 dealers here have hijacked the dealership of that company. Even at a point, you don't even need capital. Once the company is guaranteed repayment when the vehicles are sold to the government. So they make provision in the budget for buying of these vehicles. And when they are bought, there's no rebate, there's no discount. And you and me know that the budgeting does not take account of the discount. But whenever you buy a fleet of vehicles, Depending on your negotiating ability, you can get even up to 40% discount. If you are buying 1,000 Toyota vehicles, they can give you about 40% discount. But in the budget process, there's nothing like that. So when it comes to the actual expenditure, you see the avenue whereby these people can get billions and billions of money for themselves. Why do you think all this National Assembly and the rest, they are desperate and they must buy 160 million Jeep for all the members of the National Assembly, 300 and something of them. Then the Senate has its own. It's a huge, huge business for the leadership of the National Assembly. Somebody will be going home with billions of naira. In the discounts they will negotiate with these companies. So from beginning, the budget process has not been streamlined. All the parastatals bring their budget estimate, recurrent and expenditure. And because it's not streamlined, they aggregate them at the end of the day and say, come to the National Assembly and defend your budget. And defending that budget means you are coming to assure the members of National Assembly what is for them. What is for them in your budget. If you do not do that, you get a zero allocation. You get what they call zero budget allocation. So this is the corruption that drives the budget process in Nigeria. So when you are talking about voting 200 and something million for feeding animals, when you are talking about doing this, you have to put it in mind that somebody is there who brought this estimate with the ultimate aim that when the budget is approved, a lot of funds are going to come to them personally. They are going to derive a lot of benefit from these budgetary estimates when it is approved. So that is why our budgetary estimates, there can be no fidelity to our budgetary estimates. The whole budget system has to be taken down and re-engineered. Otherwise, this thing, the cycle will continue like this.
Upon that, excuse me, at the end of every year, I don't think we have ever, most of, if not all, since, no, not all, not even most. I think all, there's none of our budgets since the inception of democracy in Nigeria. There's none of our budgets that has been fully 100% implemented. Sometimes we'll have 40%, sometimes we'll have 60%. At the end of the day, some of this project, the problem is all these things pointed out, what they do is on this budget, even though like everybody, like we all know, budgeting does not mean we have the money on ground. It's we budget based on anticipated revenue. So that's understandable. But what they do is they prioritize their interests. Most of the capital projects that are supposed to benefit, they focus less on the capital projects that are supposed to benefit the masses. That probably does not have anything to do with them. They focus less on that, and those are the projects that suffers. Those are the projects that falls under non-implementation of the fiscal year budget. So that is a problem. What they do is they channel the 40% implementation, mostly channel that on projects, capital projects that has to do, just like you mentioned, that deals with them personally, where they will benefit directly from. And that is the problem. And that's what has been happening. That's why we have projects suffering for years, projects that are supposed to be meant to benefit the generality of the masses. They suffer so long, year upon year. Government come and go. The same project is still there. Sometimes they just pour in some little money there, the money again, instead of them to continue with the project, they just siphon the money and abandon the project or whatever. So that look, unfortunately, Tinubu has what do we expect? When the foundation is faulty, what can the writers do? I said it earlier, Tinubu, nothing good will ever come from Tinubu. Tinubu's motive for vying for presidency is just personal, for personal aggrandizement. He came in there as on a criminal platform, and he's perpetrating criminality on that same on the presidential platform. That's just it. Nothing good will ever come from that man. That man will plunge Nigeria into more and more chaos in all facets of administration. Sort of. So anyway, that is that on the budget. Let's move to something related to that as well. The COP28. This is just the same thing we are talking about. You can imagine Nigeria, our own contingents were up to, I think, over 1,000 plus. Is it 1,800 or 1,500? Forgotten. Nigerian contingents to COP28. For God's sake, what in the first place? What are we going there? This climate stuff, climate whatever that is just that's full of riddled with corruption globally. Climate stuff that is just riddled, climate change or whatever that is so corrupt like no man business. The real professionals have come and to tell us that this climate thing is just a ruse. They just use it to amass wealth, both locally and internationally. It just everything about this climate is corruption and lies. What dirty climate change are they talking about? Now, this is what Nigeria is spending money and spending time, for God's sake, 1,000 plus contingents. What were they going there to do? What is the problem? I don't get it, for God's sake. Spending that kind of money, time, and resources for a ridiculous a program that, first, you don't even need that much people. Second, I don't understand, even that, not even close to that much people. Secondly, what does it benefit from Nigeria? What does it add? What benefit does it add to Nigeria? Sort of. So I don't just get it. I don't know, Barrister, what's your opinion on this COP28 issue? Crazy madness.
Yes, COP28. You know, the COP stands for Conference of Parties.
Yes.
And the parties are the parties to the United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change. It was started in 1994 to stabilize greenhouse emissions and stabilize the climate change. I'm putting climate change in quotes because I am one of those who believe that the so-called climate change, while being true, is not a threat to the earth that has been projected. So I'm of the view that it is a hoax.
Wow. So you and I, again, we believe in
I have repeatedly discounted this. My view, one of it is that, look, the West that have brought this issue of climate change and want to ram it down the throat of the rest of the world, they have an interest. You know, the rest of the world is catching up with the West technologically and economically. Yeah. So they want to be a step ahead. In the current scheme of things, whether it's in the oil, fossil fuels, or anything that produces greenhouse, the rest of the world, Asia, China, Russia, and other countries are catching up with the West. So the West want to jump to a new system whereby they can still be far ahead of everybody. So they introduced this idea of, we have to stop the climate change. And this climate change is caused by greenhouse emissions. Now, you can understand that a lot of scientists have been suppressed who disputed the science behind this thing. Because this is a well-organized, well-financed movement by the West to ram down this issue of climate change on the throat of everybody. So any scientist who disputes the scientific data that the West and the scientists backing them have produced is quickly ostracized and removed from the scene. So they have their agenda that, look, this thing must willy-nilly be enforced. And they have gathered, because of their privileged position, their power and influence, they are able to gather the whole world that, look, this thing, the climate change is coming. But I have looked at history. Now, the climate change presupposes that the climate is progressing inexorably towards destruction. But the facts do not belie that.
Of course.
The facts of history show that climate operates in a cyclical form, not a continuous progress.
Correct. Goes round. You're right.
It goes round and comes back.
Yeah. That is it.
It's not on a continuous progress towards destruction. Now, if that is the case, you know that will undercut the entire issue of climate change.
Climate change, correct.
But because they have suppressed all science, all data on this thing, and people, third world countries, most of them, they are lazy intellectually. They are just there to, whatever these people say, they will take it and begin to act on it. Nobody wants to sit down and do his homework and say, how is this climate change really affecting us? They point to new, disasters that are happening, rains and floods and all these things, fires. These things have been happening throughout history.
Yeah.
It is not as if it is just now that they're happening. It is not as if the way they're happening now is even more than what has happened in history. There's a time in history that they peaked. They happened and peaked and began to decline. So the same thing now, it will come to a point where they will, on their own, the nature on their own, with the greenhouse or the heating of this earth will still decline. But we are too lazy. Look at the economy of third world countries. Look at Nigeria. The whole Nigerian economy depends on fossil fuel.
That is it.
And you are the people carrying a delegation of almost 2,000.
Honestly.
To go to a conference.
Honestly.
That wants to limit your ability to produce these fossil fuels. And the West use this fossil fuel to develop their economies.
Yeah.
But they want to suppress us. So when we are suppressed, what do? They are ahead of us in the creation of these new technologies that attune with their climate system. So we are going to be still subservient to them, even in the new economy that they want to.
Yeah.
That is the whole idea. That is the whole idea. But our governments, and because most of our governments are stooges, are stooges of the West, they have no say. You have to do what they want or what they tell you to do. Otherwise, you will not remain. We have no business even attending that conference.
Honestly. Honestly.
Assuming, yes, it is staged by powerful countries that help us, yes, we can attend, but we attend with sense.
That is it.
We attend with sense and seek to extract from them what is beneficial for us. But now you carry 1,000, almost 2,000 people to go and do a jamboree in Dubai, and you come back. Now we can ask them, what have they brought back for Nigeria?
Absolutely nothing. Absolutely nothing. Absolutely
And they
nothing.
will not give you any reasonable or convincing explanation that they have brought back from the conference with such a large, unworthy delegation. Doing what?
Honestly.
So this is the kind of things that show that these people are ahead of us in thinking, they are ahead of us in organization, and they ensure and try all they can to make sure that the leadership of our country and other third world countries is in their pockets. They don't want an independent thinking minded person to lead the country.
That is why
This thing is not beneficial to us.
That is the reason why they support corrupt leaders. You ask yourself, why are the West, or why is the West supporting corrupt leaders in Africa? This is just the reason.
This is one of the examples.
Yes, of course. They just they want stooges, they want people they can control. That's just it. And of course, a developed Africa will spell doom to the West. So they don't want that. They don't want that to be achieved. So that is just, unfortunately, we are fools. We are fools because some of us, we see this, we know what is happening, but the problem is that majority of us don't see it that way. And the peoples in power know what is happening, but because of for selfish reason, again, because of for personal gains, they just look the other way and just play along and follow, just go with the trend, a sort of move along with the trend. That is the problem. Now, it brings us to this issue I have been lamenting about, issue of Tinubu's leadership. Tinubu has so many baggages that can never, ever, ever, even if he repents today and turns his life, and turns a new leaf and decides to do, he cannot. The best thing he can do for this country is just resign. Otherwise, no matter how he tries to do the right thing, he cannot, because he is carrying a lot of baggages, a lot of criminal baggages that both locally and internationally, our enemies are using it against him to black. If they have not started, they will use it to blackmail him. That man is full of gross baggage. I'm telling you, full of gross. That is just it. So we can't get anything good. The Nigeria will get even twice worse. You see, we have been talking about, excuse me, issue of having always the present government always better than the previous. It's been the trend in Nigeria. In Tinubu's case, Buhari was an abysmally failed government. Buhari's government or president, failed president. Tinubu's failure as against Buhari's failure will be in multiple fold. The failure will not be referred to as the previous failures of successive governments that makes us always make this phrase of the previous, saying that the previous government seem to be better. Not seem, is now better than the current government. In Tinubu's case, it will be in multiple fold, because other presidents will have, at least we can say, okay, their foundation was not that corrupt, a sort of, corrupt. Tinubu's foundation is the most corrupt foundation of any president we've ever had. Other president they don't have that much. They have some personal issues here and there, personal scandals here. In Tinubu's case, we have countless of criminal confirmed criminal cases against him. Sort of. So what do you expect? You cannot expect anything from, nothing good comes from a criminal. Nothing good comes from an evil person. No, nothing good comes from a selfish person. There are people who are embedded with the DNA of selfishness. Such people, nothing good ever comes from them. Nothing good, because everything they do, it's about, they personalize it. It's about their self. It's about themselves, rather. It's about their selfish interests. So nothing good will ever come from Buhari, Tinubu. Nothing. The sincerity of purpose, the foundation of his presidency has never been sincere, even from when he started. Probably only God knows when he started nursing this idea. From when it has never been sincere, it has never been whatever. So, and that is why we can never get anything good from him. And his government will always, there's nothing. The earlier Nigerians decide on the right way forward, the better for us, because this issue, I will never. Nigerians were so docile and myopic. We are so shallow-minded. We are so adaptive, and that adaptation, that adaptive nature is just is hitting us so hard. That whenever there is something negative happens, we just cry foul just for a short while. The next thing, we adapt and move on. The next thing, when people criticize it, most people will now say, "What are you? Let's move on. Let's not dwell on the past. Let's move on. Let's accept him. He has come to stay. Let's just accept the reality on ground." That is a problem. And that is the problem. That's what as long as we keep doing, we keep exhibiting this negative nature that we call adaptation. Honestly, we will continue to suffer. Nigeria will continue to suffer. Nigeria will continue. We'll die. That is just the bottom line. At the end of the day, if we continue on this path, Nigeria will die. Nigeria as a nation will die. And that is it. Let's talk about the bombing of the Kaduna bombing that has killed, so far as at yesterday's count, 127. The whole 127 are innocent people. Innocent men and women and possibly children. Just bombarded. I don't know. Can I have your opinion on that? Because that was, when I heard that news, when I watched the news, I just shook my head. I said, what? What kind of gross incompetence was that? I don't get it. How could you have gotten it this wrong? To have killed 127, it's still even counting. All of the innocents, that was a very poor strike. And so to me, I think I don't feel there is something to that. That story, the real truth will eventually come out. Trust Nigeria, not even Nigeria alone, any crime. You can hide it at the moment it happens or it happened. But just give it a matter of time. The truth behind that, unfortunately, most times the truth comes out very, very late, when the whole thing has become so stale and become that people have developed indifference to that particular situation. Sort of. So that is just it. Barrister, what is your opinion regarding, that's your state in the first place. What's your opinion regarding the bombing, the military bombing of innocent civilians in Kaduna State.
Yes, the army has come out to take responsibility for that bombing, and they have considered that it was a mistake that was made. I want to remind you that this is not the first time an incident of this nature has happened. An incident involving killing of such a large number of people. Back in 2017, the Air Force bombed mistakenly. I'm putting mistakenly, according to them, because they always say it's a mistake. The Air Force bombed a town in Borno State and killed 100 and something people as well. It was termed as a mistake. Now, this particular incident, it happened in a village called Tudundiri in the Gabi local government. And it's in an area that is not far from Beningwari, where for the past 20 years, insurgents, kidnappers, and every kind of criminal activity has happened.
Oh, is it up to 20 years? Is it up to 20 years? We started we started hearing about this breeding quarries.
I'm just giving a conservative estimate.
Okay.
In some villages in that axis, the insurgents have completely taken over. They come to the markets with their AK-47 strapped to their backs openly, in the daytime. They collect taxes from the local populace. For you to go to your farm, there is a fixed amount that they will charge the villagers before, the villagers will pay them before going to their farms. It has defied all military solutions or military efforts up to now. This particular incident was carried out by the Army, not the Air Force.
Yeah.
You will know that as of now, the Army has their air wing, different from the Air Force.
Air Force.
In the past, anything in the air was exclusively within the ambit of the Air Force. But the Army has acquired its own drones and have its own air wing. This very attack was launched by drones belonging to the Army. The questions, an investigation has been ordered, but the question will remain that wherever the drones are operating, drones are called unmanned area vehicles. But I do not think they are unmanned because somebody is controlling
it. That is it. Yeah, of course.
So why they call them unmanned, I don't know. Maybe because the pilot is not sitting there. But somebody is controlling the aircraft from the comfort of his control room. They are looking at the ground and seeing what the drone cameras are capturing on the ground. And they are taking decision that, look, this is, we need to drop a bomb on this place, we need to. The problem will come where that decision making, that process, whether those people have received adequate training, whether the drones and the cameras and the picture they capture is properly interpreted by the ground control team, whether there is a vetting process in giving the command, because normally the ground control will capture this thing and relate it to a superior officer who will give the approval that go ahead and do the launch the bombs.
Yeah.
In Nigeria, because the Air Force had exclusive preserve over anything in the air, and the Army are going into that. There is now some sort of rivalry between the Air Force and the Army. Even now, we're already beginning to hear that they were cautioned by the Air Force. We are beginning to hear that before the attack was launched, the Air Force cautioned the Army that the picture did not look like insurgents. Because if insurgents are gathering, you expect motorcycles and other things to be there. But all these things will be unraveled during the investigation that has been ordered. But what can be said is that going forward, there must be a synergy between the various departments of the security agencies. In that control room, the Air Force should be there, the Army should be there. Even the police, every security agency that have presence in that area should be part of the decision making. If the police are operating in that area, they should be part of this decision making. Because we say two heads are better than one. If the civil defense are also operating there, they should be part of that control room. They may have something to say as to the picture the drone is putting up. But the problem here is that every arm wants to appropriate what they want to do and claim we are the one doing this. There must be synergy. All the security agencies are working for the same purpose. There must be synergy and cooperation between all of them. Having said that, the kind of comments that have come up are regrettable. The vice president led a very large delegation to Kaduna and went to condole with the people who are in the hospitals receiving treatment. But the kind of comments that you hear from supposed leaders of thought and influential people, it's not the best. You cannot turn something like this and try to turn it into a religious something. It makes no sense. But we hear things like that. If at the end of the day, it is established that it is a mistake, we should not leave it like we left what happened in 2017, like I told you. If you Google it, you will see mistaken strikes by the Air Force about 14 times in the past 10 years. So about 14 times, the Air Force has mistakenly dropped bombs on innocent people and villagers in the guise of trying to drop bombs on insurgents. This should not have been. And because in the past, there was no outcry, no attention to those incidents, they quickly died down. We should not allow this present one to die down, because every innocent man, woman, child, and elderly person that died is a blight on our country. It's a blight on our conscience. And we should not allow this thing to happen.
I can't remember anyone being fired in the past, all the one you mentioned, in the past, the 14 incidences that you mentioned. I can't remember anyone being fired. And that's the problem. That's the problem we have in our country. Nobody takes, even when people even take, sometimes they take, very on rare occasion, they take, just like in this occasion, in this situation, they take responsibility. But most times they don't even, no one takes responsibility. And secondly, even when they take, even if and when they take responsibility, no punitive action has been taken, was taken, or will ever be taken. I don't expect any, because again, Nigeria under Tinubu can never be different from the past. In fact, it will get worse. That's just the truth. All the 14 incidents that you mentioned, I don't know if you had any situation in any of the cases where someone was fired, because when such decisions always come from above, from the highest level. Decisions like this come from, like the situation when you go to the situation room, you see the GOC is supposed to be there. In fact, the army chief is supposed to be there. When you have such strikes, they're so important. They will have chain of command. You will have chain of command. In the command and control center, the who is who in the military. If it's the army, the highest in the hierarchy is always there. They look at it, they are there on the screen watching. Just like you said, some people are. I don't agree with you in that area where you have so many security apparatus on the same issue. That's where we have issue of mole. We have moles who, because when people are too much on a security situation or a security stuff, you will have some bad eggs there. Having civil defense, police, and everyone there. No, military cannot. Military operations should be restricted to military operations. You don't bring in police into military operations. That would be very, very unprofessional. You don't bring in civil defense into military operations. Nobody. That idea, to me, is just it's not the right way to go. It's not. So the thing is, coming back to my point, decisions like these are always made by the topmost person or personnel. Before they made such strike, they got the nod from the army chief. There's no doubt about that. That man needs to go. The GOC needs to go. That just is true. They need to. What investigation are you talking about? What are you investigating? Me, I am sick and tired of this investigation here and there. When there is any issue, something that it looks or sounds so direct that you don't need what investigation. There are situations that when it happens, there are situations that happens and immediately you fire people. That you don't even need any explanation to say, okay, this thing happened or that thing happened for you to be able to get the true fact. Now, the first thing, when this thing happened, the first thing that could have happened was let people, you were supposed to fire people before you even start investigating, because first and foremost, most people know how the military works. That is what we call command and control. This command and control has a chain. So if there is a failure like this, the Oga Patapata goes. Strikes like this, he always gives the nod. They will always seek his opinion. And if strike like this, even on the drone, on the screen there, whatever, in that situation room, most of them will be there watching the screen together with the people controlling the drone. And the moment they control the people controlling the drone, the moment they get this strike, they will seek for permission. So okay, we have narrowed in on our target. And someone will be there, either he's on the screen watching it there in the station room or somewhere else in his office, but he will be seeing exactly what those people are seeing. And at that point, they will ask, before they eventually press the button to strike, they will seek for his approval. He has to approve it before they press that button. He has to approve it before they go searching for this target. He has to approve it when they eventually find this target. He has to make decision on what to do with the target. And if they are to strike, they seek another approval again from him before striking, before pressing that button. They will seek his approval again. So the GOC The army chief, as you earlier pointed that they have their air wing, otherwise would have. Basically, this is supposed to be the Air Force. Anything that has to do with air, I don't even know why they did it that way. Anything that has to do with air is supposed to belong to. Anyway, Air Force too. They made the same mistake. The previous mistakes you mentioned, the video incidents you mentioned, were from the Air Force. So they too have their own baggage. So back to my point. The truth is, cases like this, for God's sake, like in the military, most people know how the military operates. So we know that strikes like this can never be made without the consent or the approval of the army chief, the chief of army staff, and the GOC too, the one division GOC that is responsible, that is in charge of this environment, this area. So this issue of investigation, that is nonsense. One, nothing will happen. The investigation, they only say we're investigating just for tempers to die down, to pacify the public, to make the whole news stale, to make people distract people, people's attention from it. That is just it. There's nothing they will do nothing. Such situation, honestly, again, it can never be overemphasized that a situation like this, a military failure like this, is supposed to have heads are supposed to roll immediately without investigation, because the failure is from the commander-in-chief of the army. The commander-in-chief of the army is the chief of defense staff, chief of army staff. So he is the one that is supposed to go first. The president is supposed to fire him, fire the GOC before we begin to say, okay, investigate and find out who else made was instrumental to this mistake, this error. So that is just it. Barrister, you are itching to say something.
Let us be cautious and apportioning blame. Ultimate responsibility rests with the commander. But having said that, remember that there are two situations. The first situation is an isolated instance where you want to do a particular thing, and you set up these structures, send the drones. That is one situation. The other situation is a continuous warfare where there are task forces in charge of particular areas like we have now. We have theater command commanded by certain officers in charge of the war that is going on in Nigeria with the insurgents. We have what they call theater commands. Those generals that are appointed to take care of that theater are in charge of those places, because the war is on a day-to-day basis, continuous. So you will not expect the chief of army staff to sit in on the control room in a situation of day-to-day war, when a general has been tasked with command of that particular theater. And again, we are not talking of a manned aircraft that has gone to bomb. We are talking of a drone and a command center. And I was telling you that if security agencies are operating in a village, in a situation of war, the police are in that village, the civil defense are in that village, the Air Force are in that village, for instance. You are looking at the picture in the command room that is brought by the drone. And don't forget, the pictures that are brought by drones are not as vivid as me and you are seeing there. They are being interpreted.
Yeah, you're right.
Sometimes they are interpreted from years of experience. If something looks brusque like this, it is a machine. If something looks this way, it is a human being or a child. So it's subject to interpretation by the people in the command, in the command center. So my suggestion was that if you have other security agencies in the village who are equipped, who know the place, who know the environment very well, you assimilate them. If they see this picture, they can have a good say. If they see this picture that the drone is bringing into the command center, they can have something to say. They can say, no, I know this area. This thing that is happening is this is ABCD. Nothing will be lost by that. It's not a situation where the army is going into the battlefield to go and confront the enemy like that. You are sitting in the comfort of your command center, looking at pictures and videos brought back by a drone, trying to figure out exactly what those pictures represent. They can show people running, they can show people gathering, but they cannot show, it will not be so explicit as to know that, okay, it's a market, or they are doing praying or doing this. It may not be. You will need to interpret it.
Yeah,
So
Barrister.
there's nothing wrong with inviting these other agencies, all with the aim of trying to avoid the kind of mistake that happened. Like I told you now, we are hearing reports that the Air Force, who have more experience than the Army Air Wing, cautioned that the way they saw those things, it did not represent, they did not believe it was a gathering of insurgents. Because according to them, when insurgents are gathering, they come on machines. So you expect to see a lot of machines in that area. But again, when you mention that everything in the air should be, no, all the modern air forces throughout the world now, all the modern armies throughout the world are having their air wing. Whether it's the Navy, whether it's the Army, everywhere in the world, they're having their air wing. It's a modern development in warfare. Every branch will have its wave. In the US, the Marines have their air wing. The Navy have their air wing. The Army itself have their air wing. So also you go to Britain, you go to Russia, you go to any country. It's not a new thing, it's a new development, and they feel it is better for the operation of the ground forces to have their own air wing. So I don't see anything much wrong with that. But let's see, and I also do not discount the investigation. Let's not rush to punishment without knowing exactly what happened in that control room and how this mistake was made. Not just to effect punishment, but also to take measures to avoid future occurrence. Because if you don't know exactly how this mistake occurred, it could reoccur. So I have believed that an investigation can help.
Yeah, again, honestly, while I appreciate your own opinion on this, the truth is I still stand on my ground on the issue of firing, who to fire, when to fire. Again, when there is a failure in any system, the leadership of that failure takes responsibility. The onus lies on him or her. So, and that is just it. If you end up firing the chief of army staff and find out that, okay, the chief of army staff gave a directive, but the directive was not carried out, that still, it doesn't take the failure away from him as a leadership. So that is just the truth, a sort of. The truth is, I still stand on this issue of firing someone in a situation like this. In this particular military situation, honestly, I expected someone to be fired immediately. Then you can investigate for order to find out where the whole thing went from, because leadership comes with responsibility. You don't just become a leader. You don't become a leader to enjoy the legacy of leadership. No, you become a leader to actually experience the pains of leadership. And the pains of leadership is taking responsibility for failures, whether it is from you directly or not. Failure is failure. And if you are at the helm of affair in that situation, failure automatically, it should be a default. It should go to you by default. Sort of. So there is nothing about that. On the issue of this air thing, honestly, whether it is global thing or not, that it is global does not make it. But we have so many things that are global, that are riddled with wrong stuff, wrong motives, wrong intentions or whatever. So I don't. This issue of that is the norm, that is the trend. That's where anything that has, but when people say, oh, that is the norm, that is the standard, that's what people do, everybody do. I hate that phrase. That does the truth, because I always believe in okay, is it the right thing to do? That's just it. So honestly, why is it called Air Force? Whether the West does it, whether US does it, does that make it right? It's sort of, why is it called Air Force? What I expect is we have these three arms of military: the air, the navy, excuse me, the Air Force, the Navy, the Army. That is the purpose. That's why we have these three departments of the Army, of the military. So what are we talking about? The essence of this is for them to synergize with each other. So if you are taking the Air Force responsibility, part of this, it's not like what we have with the issue of police. We used to have only police, that the police handling the responsibilities of road safety and VIO. Yeah? Until I think Babangida had to split it and created road safety and created VIO and what else again, and took all those responsibilities away, basic responsibilities away from the police. And so now you don't expect the police to begin to overlap and begin to check for or whatever. Even they still do that, but they do it, it's unconstitutional. You are a lawyer, you know that there are some things that police shouldn't stop you to begin to ask you for. Police shouldn't stop you and be talking about the issue of safety to you. They don't have the right, the scope. It is not within their scope of responsibility to do. That's the work, that's the job of road safety. And sort of, so it is the same thing should be applied here, for God's sake. That's why we call them Air Force. The three of them the three arms should synergize with each other, not for one arm to create an arm of the others a segment or a department that belongs to the other arm. No, that is not it. And that's why you see some error sometimes, because they say jack of all trades, master of none. You know that phrase very well. Why do we say that? Why do we use that phrase, jack of all trades, master of? Because you cannot be better than someone. You cannot be better in your profession as a lawyer. Let's even use you as a lawyer. You have been in this profession. You basically have done. You are focused on this profession. Probably, of course, not even probably. That's exactly why you are so good at it. You don't do any other thing other than being a lawyer for almost 40 years. And that is why you know it in and out. You can dissect everything about law. And that's why probably you are successful in assessing legal situations and assessing it the right way. Why? Because your focus has been on that for almost 40 years. You cannot compare yourself. No lawyer that does. There are so many lawyers who are said to be called lawyers, but they are practicing, but they do other businesses. They're into one business or the other. They're into contract. They're into manufacturing. They're into so many things. You cannot compare such lawyers with you. Such lawyers cannot stand where you stand when it comes to legal interpretations. They cannot stand it. So that is the point. I remember when we were in their office sometimes ago, so many years back, there was this case I brought to you, and there were lawyers there. I don't want to mention their name. You had your colleagues there in your office. You were there in your office, or three other lawyers. Okay, I'll mention one is late now. Tite was there. Tite, who was a lawyer, then he's late now. And let me even mention it. And this Al Hassan too was there. These are lawyers. And you were there. You were the three. I think four of you. There was one other lawyer that was there. And I brought this case when all of you were there. And this argument ensued between the four of you. And the three other lawyers stood on a different position while you took a different, you were the only one that took a different position from the three other lawyers. And these three other lawyers, Al-Hassan is a QS. Tite was a QS. So Al-Hassan was into contract too. He does so many other businesses. Tite was into construction too. He does so many other, but they are lawyers. And one other guy, I've forgotten the other lawyer, that was there. He's a business person. I think he's a business person too. You, among them, was the only lawyer who is truly, who can be said to be lawyer indeed. Whole hook, line, and sinker. Left, right, and say forward, backward, you are a lawyer. And you took a different position from these three lawyers. And we went to court with your own position. What happened? We won the case. We won the case with the position with where you stood, as against where three other lawyers stood. Why? Why were they wrong? They were wrong because why they are lawyers, or they were lawyers, and because Tite is late, they focused on several other things too. You got it right because you dedicated all your entire life on this profession. So who can, that's just a common sense, a sort of, and the same thing should be applied to the military as well. Of course, mistakes will be made because you took part of someone's responsibility to make it part of yours. Why don't you focus on ground? What have you got to do with the air when you have people who are specialized on that? A sort of, the Air Force are specialized on images. When they see images on the screen, they know what it means. They can interpret it. They can interpret it perfectly. They were trained from the inception for such situations. And you, the military, the army, you are coming to say, okay, we have to create this part of that. You, of course, you will create know how from time to time. If not that Nigerian military does not have shame. Other militaries, they must be experiencing some friction within because of this same issue. There's no doubt about that. But they won't make it public. Unlike Nigeria that is making theirs public right now about the friction between the Air Force and the Army, whatever. So honestly, again, I still believe that the Army does not have business have any business with the air if they are not referred to as the Air Force. That is just my own whatever. And back to the issue of bringing all people into other security agents into play. Again, no military institution globally, no military institution, first, apart from having that pride of being a kind of having supremacy over anything that has to do with security. They have that pride. Besides, it's against their profession. Apart from that, it's against their professionalism, their ethics. So this military, they are so independent. Especially when it comes to literal operations. What they do is when it comes to intelligence gathering, yeah, they work with all these people. They work with everybody. They work with civilians. They work with police. They work with everyone. But the moment the intelligence is gathered, the moment all the intelligences are gathered, and they are not out to execute the operation, come on, nobody will do that. No military man will do that. Will bring in someone else to be there. What? They are already trained. People who use who man people who operate the drone, people who operate the aircraft or whatever, they are already trained. People who are on the screen there monitoring everything, they're already trained about images, how to read images. Just like we have in medicine, we have medical doctors who are specialists in X-ray. Physicians that are specialists in X-ray. I've forgotten what they call them. Sorry, I'm trying to remember their name. That's the specialists. So, but that is just it. The doctors that are specializes in X-ray. You give X-ray, you look at the X-ray. You as a layman, you'll be wondering, what is this image? What are these images, or what is this image? They don't, but they know how to interpret images on X-ray. And that's just the truth. The same thing applies to the military too. So there are people, they are trained for this, just as the doctors, the x-ray doctors, the diagnosis doctors are trained. Image diagnosis doctors are trained on this, on how to diagnose images. So that the same thing, these people, these drone guys or these pilots or whatever they are called, are trained. So they don't need, when it is when in the process of gathering intelligence, you need all these people. But when it is the time for operation, to carry out the operation, they don't need them. They don't need all these people. And in the process of gathering intelligence, that is when even by the intelligence, they know the environment. That's why they call it intelligence. By the intelligence, the information on intelligence, they already know the environment. So they don't need any police. They got all the information already from the police, from the civil defense, from the whoever is on ground there. The intelligence they already have all this information. So again, it brings me to the fact that the failure should go to the leadership. The leadership should be fired. I don't have any distinct. Honestly, no one will change my opinion on this, because I don't believe leadership comes with responsibility, and the responsibility must be dealt with, and that is just it. So Barrister, while we are rounding up, is there any other thing in rounding up? Is just something you need to you want to say to add to everything we have said so far, all the topics we have treated so far? Anything probably that you omitted that you want to talk about? Please go ahead as we round up.
Yes, let me recap on the budget.
Excuse me. Yes.
One of the biggest deficits in the country is infrastructure. We're talking about roads, power, bridges, and all this stuff. If you look at the budgetary allocation for infrastructure,
yes,
it's only 5%, just 5%, which is aggregating to 1.3 trillion.
Hold on. Can you repeat that again? That's for what project is that?
For infrastructure as a whole.
Just 1 point something trillion. That's it.
1.3 trillion.
Shit.
For that, representing 5% of the budget to take care of infrastructure. And I'm talking of housing,
yes,
power,
of course,
transport, water
God.
Resources, aviation,
my God,
and works.
My God.
For God's sake.
My God.
For God's sake.
Wow.
These are the things that impact the average Nigerian. And you allocate 5% to infrastructure.
My God. Wow.
This is most regrettable. Power alone that the economy rests on needs more than that. Needs more than the 1.3 trillion to have sufficient power in Nigeria.
Of course.
Then you put 1.3
for everything. Oh my
for
God.
Bridges, for aviation, for
God.
Water Resources. I mean, I don't know what they intend to do with this. And across these boards, you are talking about almost 10 ministries. You are talking about their salaries and allowances, travel expenses, all within this 1.3 trillion. It makes absolutely no sense to me. So I have nothing good to say about this budget, and it will not take us anywhere.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, thank you for that, Barrister Manta. In rounding up, I just think this one is just, I didn't even get this information until now, that the infrastructural figure of the budgetary figure is just 1 point something trillion. My God. Of course, these are the areas where the masses will benefit directly. This is the area where the common man will benefit directly. And this is the area that is getting this ridiculously low amount budgeted for it. This is unbelievable. This is, what else? What other proof do we need? I think this man just wants, he knows it. President Bola Tinubu and his cohorts, they know quite all right that Nigerians didn't vote for them. He used his money to bulldoze his way into presidency. He paid his way through. So he knows very well that he is not the president as a result of the of Nigerians voting for him. He's not on he's not the people's mandate. He knows that. And that is why he's doing this. He's doing this to punish Nigerians because he just felt, you guys didn't vote for me, so why will I protect your interests? Why would I be on your side? Why would I do something that will favor you? Why would I be something that will be of benefit to you? When in the first place, it takes two to tango. You didn't vote for me. You didn't support me. I walked my way. I fought my way through. I spent my hard-earned money, and probably that's why he's trying to recoup all this money. They are recouping their resources back. That is one. And secondly, this budget is about his vindictiveness. Honestly, this budget is vindictive. It is. It is vindictive because how else do you expect me to interpret this? For God's sake, recurrent capital projects. Okay, now my own definition of recurrent is different from yours. What you consider recurrent capital is different from, because me, most of these things, most of the things I read here on the top, I consider them to be recurrent. Everything that has to do with food, welfare, or welfare of people generally, I consider anything that has to do with welfare, personal welfare of the of government officials. Those things are recurrent in my own judgment. They are recurrent. They are supposed to be lumped up together with. They're supposed to be added together with salaries, monthly salaries or whatever. So that is my own. So that is what I could. So what you are saying that what the budget projects right now is that what the areas that our leaders will benefit, the areas our leaders will benefit is carrying not just the largest chunk of the budget, but broadly, significantly largest chunk of the budget as against something that will benefit the common man on the streets. How else do you expect me to interpret this? This is vindictiveness, nothing else. The man is just out to just punish Nigerians. Because how else do you expect it? First of all, the first day he was sworn in, he took out the subsidy. He removed the subsidy. That was where the punishment started. How else do you expect that? How else do you expect me to interpret that? This man is just, look at the budget again. This is basically, can you imagine 1.something trillion just for infrastructural developments? Something that actually impacts the common man directly. We have a budget of 27 trillion and we only have 1.something trillion, just 1.something trillion, about 5%, as you said, as you calculated it. Just 5% of the entire budget has only 5%. The common man, something that will benefit the general populace, up to that go to trickle down to the common man on the street, has only 5% of the budget. it doesn't make sense to me, other than this is just being vindictive. This criminal that calls himself president, that imposed himself, that is still imposing himself on us. I don't get it. Of course, this is just, it just wants to punish us. That's just it. Nothing else. It's so unfortunate, very, very unfortunate that Nigerians, we are just so lackadaisical about this whole situation. We are so lazy about this situation. We are so dumb about this situation. We are so myopic about this situation. We are so shallow-minded about this situation. We are so docile about this situation. I don't see, sometimes we behave like people who are under hypnosis. Sometimes we behave like people who have been hypnotized, someone is just on the remote control, remoting our brains. It's so unbelievable, honestly. Nigerians, the earlier we rise up, the earlier we began to rise up, the earlier, the better for us. Honestly, the earlier it is. But honestly, because Nigeria, we are sliding into a situation where we have no country called Nigeria anymore, if we don't do the right thing. Barrister, thank you so very much for joining us once again. Thank you for all your insightful and thoughtful analysis. And thank you for the facts and figures you gave to us. Thank you for enlightening us. Thank you for availing yourself once again, giving us the privilege to have an interactive session with you as always. Viewers, we have been having discussion with Barrister Austin Manta, a legal practitioner, a man with a very strong legal pedigree. And we've been discussing about, we discussed about the budget, Nigerian 2024 budget. We talked about the COP 28. We talked about the error in the military, in the army bombing of innocent civilians. I think we have come to the end to draw the curtain. Thank you everyone for joining. Thank you if this is your first time. Please subscribe to this channel, Oweleke TV. And if you are a returning viewer, thank you for being there with us and for us. We appreciate your audience. And I will say at this time, remain blessed. And I urge you to join us on the next edition of JIBRIN Angle. Once again, my name is JIBRIN, your sole exclusive anchor on this program. God bless you. Bye.